The black void of space stretched endlessly in all directions. Stars twinkled like tiny diamonds scattered across dark cloth. In this quiet corner of the galaxy, something was about to change forever. Commander Dextar stood on the bridge of his flagship watching the stars through the crystal windows. His tall, thin body cast a shadow across the glowing control panels. Like all Vorthak, his skin had a blue-gray color, and his large black eyes could see things humans never could. He had been hunting in space for over 50 years, and he had never lost a battle. "Sir, we have found something," said his second officer, touching the crystal controls with his long fingers. Dextar moved closer to look at the display. A strange energy pattern showed on the screen. It was unlike anything he had seen before. The energy was strong but different from the usual signatures of the weak species they normally found. "How far away?" Dextar asked. 3 light cycles. "Sir, the ship appears to be alone." A smile crossed Dextar's face. Another easy victory. For 300 years, the Vorthak Empire had ruled this part of the galaxy. They had destroyed countless worlds and made slaves of hundreds of species. No one had ever been able to stop them. "Send word to the fleet. We will surround this vessel and take it," he ordered. 11 other Vorthak ships received the message. Each ship was beautiful in its own deadly way. They looked like they were made of living crystal, smooth and sharp at the same time. Their surfaces reflected the starlight, making them seem like floating jewels. But these jewels carried weapons that could crack planets in half. Far away, Captain Hyunsik walked slowly around the bridge of his ship. The Soul's Fury was huge, stretching 2 kilometers from front to back. Unlike the smooth alien ships, it looked like it was built for war. Gray metal covered its surface, and large weapons stuck out from its sides like the spines of some giant space creature. "Captain, I'm picking up multiple contacts," said Bora from her position at the navigation station. Her voice was calm, but her fingers moved quickly over the controls. Hyunsik stopped walking and looked at the main screen. 12 bright dots were moving toward them, coming from different directions. "What do you think, Bora?" "Unknown ships, sir. They're surrounding us. Classic attack formation." Taman looked up from the weapons control station. His young face showed excitement rather than fear. "Should I power up the guns, Captain?" "Not yet," Hyunsik said quietly. "Sunhee, how are our systems?" The chief engineer's voice came from the speaker system. "All systems running perfectly, Captain. Shields are ready, engines are ready, and our special systems are standing by." Hyunsik nodded. The Soul's Fury was not just an exploration ship. It was the result of 200 years of human preparation. When Earth scientists had found evidence of hostile aliens in ancient ruins, they had built this ship to be humanity's guardian. The Vorthak ships moved into position like wolves surrounding a deer. Their crystal hulls gleamed as they prepared to strike. Commander Dextar felt the familiar excitement of an easy hunt. "Unknown vessel." Dextar's voice echoed across space on all communication frequencies. "You are surrounded by the Vorthak Empire. Surrender now and your death will be quick." Captain Hyunsik listened to the alien words. The ship's computer had already learned their language from the transmission. He turned to Da-Un at the communication station. "Open a channel." "Channel open, sir." "This is Captain Hyunsik of the Jar. Earth vessel Soul's Fury," he said in perfect Vorthak language. "We come in peace. We wish to establish friendly relations with your people." On the alien flagship, several officers looked at each other in surprise. How did these creatures know their language? Dextar felt a small moment of confusion, but he pushed it away. It did not matter. The result would be the same. "You speak our tongue, yet you do not flee," Dextar replied. "This shows either great courage or great stupidity. We have destroyed 1,000 worlds. We have made slaves of countless species. You cannot win." Captain Hyunsik sighed. He had hoped this would go differently. "We don't want to fight you. There is room in the galaxy for all of us." "There is room only for the strong," Dextar said. "Prepare to die." The Vorthak commander gave the signal. A brilliant beam of plasma shot from his flagship toward the human vessel. The energy was hot enough to melt through solid rock, bright enough to be seen from planets away. It was the same. weapon that had destroyed the homeworlds of dozens of species. But something was wrong. The plasma beam hit the human ship and simply disappeared, not reflected, not absorbed, just gone. The Soul's Fury sat quietly in space, completely undamaged. Not even a mark showed on its gray hull. "What happened?" Dextar demanded. His weapons officer checked the controls frantically. "Direct hit, sir. Full power. But their ship shows no damage." "Fire again." More plasma beams shot out from the Vorthak ships. Each one was powerful enough to destroy a city. All of them hit the human vessel. All of them disappeared without effect. On the Soul's Fury, the crew watched their screens calmly. "Their weapons are giving us extra power," Sun He reported from engineering. "The shields are converting their attacks into energy for our systems." "Interesting. Technology," Hyunsik said. "Da-Yun, open the channel again." "Channel open." "We had hoped for a more civilized first contact," the human captain said. His voice carried disappointment, like a teacher speaking to a student who had failed a test. For the first time in 3 centuries, Vorthak weapons had failed completely. Commander Dextar stared at the human ship in growing fear. What kind of creatures had they found? What kind of technology could simply ignore the most powerful weapons in the galaxy? The hunt had suddenly become something else entirely. The hunters had become the hunted, and they didn't even know it yet. Commander Dextar's hands shook as he gripped the crystal controls. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen weapons simply stop working. The plasma beams that had destroyed planets were useless against this strange human ship. But he was Vorthak, and the Vorthak did not show weakness. "All ships focus fire on the enemy vessel," he ordered through gritted teeth. "Maximum power." 11 ships opened fire at once. The space around the Soul's Fury lit up like a small sun as dozens of plasma beams struck the human vessel from every direction. The energy release was enormous, enough to sterilize an entire moon. Any normal ship would have been vaporized instantly. The human ship sat in the middle of the attack like a rock in a stream. The beams hit its hull and vanished. Not one mark appeared on its gray surface. Captain Hyunsik watched the light show through the main screen. His crew worked calmly at their stations, as if being shot at by 12 alien warships was perfectly normal. In a way it was. They had trained for this moment for years. "Captain," Sun He's voice came through the speakers, "their weapons are charging our power cells faster than we expected. We're at 120% capacity and rising." "Good to know," Hyunsik replied. "Da-Un, try to reach them again." The communications officer nodded and opened a channel to the alien fleet. "Unknown ships, this is the Soul's Fury. Please stop your attack. We still wish to speak peacefully." On the Vorthak flagship, the words came through clearly. Several officers looked at their commander with confusion. How could the humans still want to talk? They were being attacked by the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, yet they sounded calm, almost bored. "They mock us," snarled the weapons officer. "They pretend to be peaceful while their ship drinks our power like water." Dextar's large black eyes studied the human vessel. It was big, yes, but it looked crude compared to Vorthak crystal ships. The humans had built it from simple metal, not elegant biocrystal. Yet somehow this primitive-looking ship was making fools of the greatest warriors in the galaxy. "Perhaps they don't understand what they face," suggested the second officer. "Maybe they are too stupid to know they should be afraid. Or maybe they know something we don't," Dextar said quietly. The thought frightened him more than he wanted to admit. On the human ship, the senior staff met in the captain's ready room. The small space was simple and functional, very different from the grand chambers of Vorthak commanders. Jin Ho from Tactical sat across from Medical Officer Ye Jin, while Captain Hyunsik listened to both sides. "We should show them what our weapons can do," Jin Ho said, his voice filled with excitement. "One shot from our main guns would end this quickly." "Violence should be our last choice," Ye Jin replied firmly. "These aliens might be acting from fear or misunderstanding. We should try harder to communicate." Hyunsik nodded thoughtfully. He had studied the reports from Earth about possible alien contact. The scientists had warned that first meetings could go badly if not handled carefully. "What do we know about them?" "The computer has been analyzing their transmissions," Da-Yun said, checking her datapad. Their language suggests a military culture. Words for conquest and domination appear often. Words for peace or cooperation are rare. They've probably never met anyone who could fight back, Taemin added from his position at the table. For all we know, we're the first species they couldn't just crush immediately. Captain Hyun-sik stood up and walked to the small window. Outside, he could see the alien ship still firing uselessly at his vessel. They're scared, he said finally. They've built their entire civilization around being the strongest, and suddenly they're not. So what do we do, sir? Jin-ho asked. We show them there's another way, the captain replied. But first we need to get their attention. Back on the bridge, Hyun-sik gave his orders. Taemin, prepare the kinetic weapons. One-shot, non-lethal targeting. Aim for their engines only. The weapons officer's hands moved over his controls with practiced skill. The Soul's Fury carried weapons that worked very differently from the aliens' plasma beams. Instead of energy, they fired solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds. Target locked, sir. Firing solution ready. Fire. A single tungsten rod shot from the human ship's main gun. It was no bigger than a pencil, but it moved at a significant fraction of light speed. The aliens never saw it coming. The projectile struck the engine section of one Vorthak ship and passed completely through it. The crystal hull, designed to resist energy weapons, offered no protection against solid matter moving so fast. The alien vessel spun helplessly as its power systems failed. Suddenly, all the other Vorthak ships stopped shooting. Commander Dextar stared at his damaged vessel in shock. His weapons officer was frantically checking the sensors, trying to understand what had happened. Sir, they fired something, but it wasn't energy. It was solid matter moving at 0.75 light speed. That's impossible, Dextar whispered. Nothing can accelerate solid matter that fast. The humans did it, sir. And they only fired once. The truth hit Dextar like a physical blow. The humans had been playing with them, while the Vorthak fleet had fired hundreds of shots without effect. The humans had disabled one of their ships with a single shot. If the humans had wanted to destroy the fleet, they could have done it easily. Sir, his communications officer said nervously, the humans are trying to contact us again. Put them through, Dextar said quietly. Captain Hyun-sik's voice filled the alien bridge. We disabled your ship's engines, but your crew is unharmed. This was a demonstration. We could have destroyed all of your ships, but we chose not to. Do you understand? Dextar looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. For the first time in their lives, they had met something stronger than themselves. Something that could have killed them all but chose mercy instead. We understand, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. Good, the human captain said. Now can we talk? The Vorthak fleet hung motionless in space, their weapons silent for the first time in decades. Commander Dextar felt something he had never experienced before. Helplessness. One of his ships was crippled, spinning slowly as emergency lights flashed along its crystal hull. The humans had done this with a single shot. Sir, his science officer said, his voice shaking. I'm reading their ship's energy signature. It's unlike anything in our databases. Explain, Dextar ordered, though part of him didn't want to know. Their shields aren't just stopping our weapons, sir. They're converting the energy into power for their own systems. Every time we shoot at them, we make them stronger. The commander felt his legs grow weak. The Vorthak had built their empire on the power of their plasma weapons. If those weapons only made their enemies stronger, then everything they knew about war was wrong. On the Soul's Fury, Captain Hyun-sik stood calmly on his bridge. His crew worked quietly at their stations, monitoring the alien fleet. They showed no sign of fear or excitement. This was what they had trained for. Captain, 1J called from the science station. I'm detecting increased communication between the alien ships. They're trying to understand our technology. Let them look, Hyun-sik replied. They won't figure it out from sensor readings. What the aliens couldn't know was that humanity had been preparing for this day for 2 centuries. After discovering ancient ruins that showed evidence of hostile alien civilizations, Earth's greatest minds had worked together to build defenses. Scientists like Dr. Shung Ho and Dr. Mi Young had developed technology specifically designed to fight energy-based weapons. The Soul's Fury was the result of their work. Its adaptive shielding could absorb almost any form of energy attack and convert it into usable power. Its kinetic weapons could punch through any known defense. Most importantly, it carried experimental systems that could do things the aliens had never imagined. "Sir," Tae-min said from the weapons station, "the aliens have stopped their attack completely. They're just watching us." "They're learning," Hyun-sik said. "The question is, what will they do with that knowledge, Commander?" Dextar was asking himself the same question. His fleet was designed to destroy primitive civilizations that fought with chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. The humans fought with technology that seemed to ignore the laws of physics. "Commander," his tactical officer said hesitantly, "perhaps we should withdraw and report this to the Empire." Dexter considered this. Retreat was not something the Vorthak did often, but they had never faced an enemy like this before. "Prepare for—" "Sir," the sensor operator interrupted. "The human ship is moving." The Soul's Fury had been floating peacefully in space, but now it began to turn. Despite its enormous size, it moved with surprising grace. Its massive engines created a blue glow that grew brighter as the ship accelerated. "How fast are they going?" Dextar demanded. "Impossible readings, sir. They're accelerating at rates that should crush any living creature inside. But their energy signature shows no signs of stress." The human ship moved around the Vorthak fleet like a predator circling its prey. It was bigger than any of the alien vessels, and now it was showing them just how fast it could move. The aliens' own ships, built for speed and agility, seemed slow and clumsy in comparison. On the Soul's Fury, the crew felt no crushing acceleration. Their artificial gravity systems compensated for the ship's movements, keeping everyone comfortable. Captain Hyun-sik watched the alien formation with interest. "They're trying to decide whether to run or fight," Bora observed from her navigation station. "Their ships are moving into what looks like a retreat formation." "Can they outrun us?" the captain asked. "Not even close, sir. Our gravity drive is at least 50 years ahead of anything they have." Hyun-sik nodded. The humans had learned about gravity manipulation from studying the same ancient ruins that had warned them about hostile aliens. While other species used crude chemical rockets or fusion drives, humanity had learned to bend space itself. Commander Dextar watched the human ship complete its circle around his fleet. The message was clear. They were trapped. The humans could move faster than any Vorthak vessel, and their weapons could disable ships with surgical precision. "Commander," his communications officer said, "the humans are sending another message." Hit through." Captain Hyun-sik's voice filled the alien bridge once again. "Vorthak fleet, we know you're considering retreat. We want you to understand something important. You cannot outrun us. Our ship is faster than yours. Our weapons are more powerful. Our defenses are absolute." Dextar felt ice form in his chest. The human was stating facts, not making threats. "However," the captain continued, "we still prefer to talk rather than fight. We're going to demonstrate something to show you why cooperation is better than conflict." "What kind of demonstration?" Dextar asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. "You'll see. Please instruct your ships to remain still and observe." The Soul's Fury stopped moving and extended large arrays from its hull. Structures that had been hidden inside the ship unfolded like metal flowers. Energy began to build around the human vessel, creating ripples in space itself. Wonjae monitored his instruments carefully. "Quantum field generators are online, Captain. Space-time distortion field is building." "Excellent. Bring us to demonstration." "Power only. We don't want to hurt them." On the Vorthak ships, every sensor was screaming warnings. Space itself was bending around the human vessel. Their science officers had never seen readings like these. "Sir," the science officer gasped, "they're manipulating gravity directly. The energy requirements should be impossible." Dextar watched, in growing horror as the fabric of reality twisted around the human ship. His own vessels, massive and powerful, suddenly felt like toys in comparison. Whatever the humans were about to do, the Vorthak were completely helpless to stop it. The Demonstration began with something simple. The human ship reached out with invisible forces and gently moved one of the disabled Vorthak vessels. Not with tractor beams or gravity fields, but by folding space itself. The alien ship slid sideways through dimensions that shouldn't exist. Then, the humans did something that brought the entire Vorthak fleet to absolute stillness. They stopped time. Not completely, and not for long, but for several seconds the alien ships found themselves frozen in place. Their engines strained uselessly against forces beyond their understanding. Their weapons wouldn't fire. Their communications went silent. They could only watch as the human ship demonstrated mastery over the fundamental forces of the universe. When time resumed, Commander Dextar and his crew sat in absolute silence. They had just witnessed technology that made their centuries of conquest look like children playing with sticks and stones. The humans had shown them truth. They weren't fighting an enemy. They were at the mercy of gods. The silence that followed was deeper than the vacuum of space itself. 12 Vorthak ships hung motionless, their crews staring at instruments that showed impossible readings. They had just experienced something that challenged everything they thought they knew about reality. Commander Dextar's hands trembled as he gripped his command chair. The brief moment when time itself had stopped around his ships would haunt his dreams forever. His weapons officer was frantically checking systems, trying to understand how their ships had been frozen in place. "Sir," the science officer whispered, "the energy readings from their ship. They're off every scale we have. They're manipulating space and time like we manipulate plasma." Captain Hyun-sik stood quietly on the bridge of the Soul's Fury, watching the alien fleet through the main screen. He had made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. The demonstration had been necessary, but now came the harder part. "Captain," Sun-hee's voice came from engineering. "All experimental systems are functioning perfectly. The quantum field generators are stable, and we have enough power to maintain these fields for days if needed." "Good work, Sun-hee. Won-jae, what's the status of the alien fleet?" The science officer checked his readings. "They're not moving, sir. All ships are maintaining position, but I'm reading increased communication between them. They're probably trying to understand what just happened." Hyun-sik nodded. "Daeun, open a channel to the alien commander." "Channel open, sir." "Commander Dextar, this is Captain Hyun-sik. I hope our demonstration was educational. We want you to understand that we could have done much worse." On the Vorthak flagship, Dextar found his voice after several moments. What are you?" "We're humans," Hyun-sik replied simply. "We're explorers, scientists, and builders. We prefer to create rather than destroy. But we're also prepared to defend ourselves and others when necessary. Your technology," Dextar began, then stopped. He didn't have words for what he had witnessed. "Our technology is the result of 200 years of preparation," the human captain explained. "We knew that someday we would meet hostile aliens. We prepared for that day." Dextar felt a chill run through his body. The humans had been preparing for war before they even knew the Vorthak existed. While his people had grown comfortable conquering primitive worlds, the humans had been building weapons that could stop time itself. Captain Hyun-sik made another decision that would echo across the stars. "Commander Dextar, I'm going to show you something that no alien has ever seen. I'm going to show you what human mercy looks like." The Soul's Fury extended its arrays again, but this time the energy pattern was different. Instead of the localized distortion they had created before, the ship began to generate a massive field that surrounded the entire Vorthak fleet. "Sir," Won-jae reported, "quantum field generators are creating a transport matrix around all alien vessels. We can move them anywhere within 100 light years instantly." "Do it," Hyun-sik ordered. "Send them home. What happened next would be talked about in alien civilizations for centuries to come." The human ship reached out with forces beyond comprehension and gently took hold of 12 Vorthak warships. Ships that masses millions of tons containing thousands of crew members were lifted as easily as a parent lifting a child. Then, in a display of power that defied every law of physics the aliens knew, the humans moved the entire fleet across space in the blink of an eye. Commander Dextar felt a strange sensation, like falling and flying at the same time. His instruments showed impossible readings as space itself flowed around his ship. Stars streaked past the windows, but there was no sense of acceleration, no crushing force. When the sensation ended, Dextar looked out his bridge windows and saw familiar stars. They were at the edge of Vorthak space, hundreds of light years from where they had started. The journey that should have taken months had been completed in moments. How? He whispered. Captain Hyun-sik's voice came through the communication system one last time. We folded, Space Commander. We brought you home safely, because we believe every creature deserves a chance to live and learn. Your ships are undamaged. Your crews are unharmed. But I want you to remember something important. Dextar listened carefully to every word. We could have destroyed your entire fleet without effort. We could have conquered your empire in days. We could have done to you what you've done to countless other species. But we chose not to. We chose mercy. The human captain paused, letting his words sink in. Go back to your people, Commander. Tell them what you've seen. Tell them that there's a new way to live in this galaxy. Tell them that the age of conquest is over, and the age of cooperation has begun. The communication ended, leaving the Vorthak fleet alone at the edge of their space. Dextar sat in his command chair, his mind struggling to process what had happened. In less than an hour, everything he had believed about power and strength had been turned upside down. Commander, his second officer said quietly. What are your orders? Dextar looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They were all looking to him for answers, but he had none. How do you explain to a warrior culture that they had met something so far beyond them that war was impossible? Set course for the capital world, he said finally. Maximum speed. Sir, what will you tell the High Command? Dextar considered the question. How could he explain that the Vorthak Empire, master of the galaxy for 3 centuries, was now a minor power? How could he make them understand that humanity could have ended their civilization with a thought, but chose instead to send them home, safely? I'll tell them the truth, he said. I'll tell them that we have found something greater than ourselves, and I'll tell them that we're very lucky these humans believe in mercy. As the Vorthak fleet began its journey home, each crew member carried the same thought. They had met gods, and the gods had chosen to let them live. The question now was whether their civilization would be wise enough to learn from this gift. Behind them, invisible in the darkness of space, the Soul's Fury continued its mission of exploration. Captain Hyun-sik had chosen to demonstrate humanity's power through mercy rather than destruction. It was a choice that would reshape the galaxy. The demonstration was over, but its effects had only just begun. 3 days later, Commander Dextar stood before the Grand Council of the Vorthak Empire. The massive crystal chamber was filled with the most powerful beings in their civilization. 12 High Lords sat on thrones carved from living crystal, their blue-gray faces showing no emotion as they listened to his report. You claim that a single alien vessel defeated our entire fleet without firing a shot? High Lord Vexeron asked, his voice echoing through the chamber. Yes, my lord, Dextar replied. They stopped our weapons, disabled one of our ships with precision, and then they moved us across space itself. Instantly. Another High Lord leaned forward. This is impossible. No species has technology that advanced. I have the sensor logs from all 12 ships, my lords. The data is clear. These humans have mastery over forces we don't even understand. The council chamber fell silent. For 300 years, the Vorthak had ruled through fear and superior firepower. The idea that someone else was stronger was almost impossible to accept. What did they want? High Lord Vexeron asked finally. To talk, Dextar said simply. They wanted peaceful contact. They only demonstrated their power after we attacked them. And then, they sent us home safely. They could have destroyed us, but they chose mercy instead. The word mercy seemed to hang in the air like a foreign concept. The Vorthak had conquered hundreds of worlds, enslaved millions of beings, and shown no mercy to anyone. The idea that someone might show mercy to them was shocking. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, Captain Hyun-sik sat in his ready room aboard the Soul's Fury. A message from Earth was playing on his personal screen. Dr. Mi Young's face looked back at him from the communication. Captain, your report has caused quite a stir here on Earth. The Council is very pleased that first contact went peacefully, despite the initial hostility. Hyun-sik nodded. The aliens weren't evil, Doctor. They were just doing what they thought they had to do. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is show restraint. The data you've sent about their technology is fascinating. Their energy weapons are actually quite sophisticated, even if they're useless against our adaptive shields. We might learn from each other. I hope so. What are my new orders? Dr. Mi Young smiled. Continue your mission, Captain. Explore map new systems and make peaceful contact with any other species you encounter. But be prepared. Word of what happened will spread. Other aliens will want to test humanity's strength. The doctor was right. Across the galaxy, the story of the human warship was already traveling through alien communication networks. The Vorthak had tried to keep the encounter secret, but news like this was impossible to contain. On the trade world of Nexus Prime, 3 different alien species gathered in a neutral cantina. The spider-like arachnids, the plant-based Verdani, and the energy beings called the Flux all had one thing to discuss. The Vorthak fleet returned to their space without conquest, clicked the arachnid representative. This has never happened before. Our sources say they encountered a single ship that stopped their entire fleet, rustled the Verdani in their musical voice. The Flux entity flickered with curiosity. What kind of ship could do this? The Vorthak have conquered everything in their path for centuries. Similar conversations were happening on worlds throughout the galaxy. Species that had lived in fear of the crystal ships were beginning to hope. If someone could stop the Vorthak, perhaps the Age of Terror was finally ending. Back on Earth, Dr. Seung-ho worked late into the night in his laboratory. The data from the Soul's Fury had given him new insights into alien technology. More importantly, it had shown that humanity's preparations had worked perfectly. Dr. Seung-ho, his assistant, called from across the lab. We're receiving multiple signals from deep space. They appear to be attempts at communication. The old scientist looked up from his work with interest. From whom? Unknown species, sir. At least 7 different sources. They're all using variations of standard galactic communication protocols. Dr. Seung-ho smiled. They want to talk to us. Word is spreading faster than we expected. 3 weeks after the encounter with the Vorthak, Captain Hyun-sik stood on the bridge of the Soul's Fury watching his screens with amazement. Dozens of alien ships had appeared at the edge of the system they were exploring. Unlike the aggressive formation the Vorthak had used, these ships approached carefully, transmitting peaceful greetings in multiple languages. Sir, Daun reported from communications, we're receiving contact requests from the Hegemony Alliance, the Free Traders Coalition, and something called the Liberation Front. They all want to establish diplomatic relations. Bora looked up. From navigation. Captain, there are more ships arriving every hour. This system is turning into a meeting place. Hyun-sik felt the weight of history on his shoulders. Humanity had stepped onto the galactic stage, and other species wanted to know what kind of neighbors they would be. Open a general communication channel, he ordered. Let's talk to all of them at once. The captain's voice reached dozens of alien ships from species humanity had never met. This is Captain Hyun-sik of Earth. We welcome peaceful contact with all civilizations. We hope to build a galaxy where cooperation replaces conquest. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Species after species sent messages of friendship and alliance. They had heard about the humans who defeated the mighty Vorthak with mercy, rather than destruction. They wanted to be part of whatever came next, but not everyone was pleased with these developments. In the deepest regions of Vorthak space, High Lord Vexran met with his most trusted generals. The news from across the galaxy was disturbing. Former slave species were declaring independence. Worlds that had paid tribute for centuries were refusing to send their resources. The humans have made us look weak, General Kexmore said angrily. Species that feared us for centuries now mock us openly. Because they know someone stronger exists, Vexran replied thoughtfully. The question is, do we try to regain our old power, or do we adapt to this new reality? My lord? Perhaps it's time to consider that conquest isn't the only path to strength. These humans could have destroyed us easily, but they chose a different way. Maybe we should learn from that. It was a radical thought for a Vorthak leader, but the galaxy was changing rapidly. The old ways of fear and domination were failing as news of humanity's power spread. Captain Hyun-sik stood at the observation deck of his ship, looking out at the growing fleet of alien vessels. They came from dozens of worlds and represented hundreds of different species. All of them wanted the same thing, a chance to build something better than the galaxy of fear they had known. "Captain," Wonjae said as he joined him at the window, "Earth wants to know if we need more ships. The response has been much larger than anyone expected." "Not yet," Hyun-sik replied. "Let's see what we can accomplish with words before we show more force." The Soul's fury had become the center of something unprecedented, a gathering of species working together to create a new kind of galactic civilization. It wouldn't be easy, and there would be challenges ahead. But for the first time in centuries, the galaxy had hope. The age of human dominance had begun, not through conquest but through the simple demonstration that true strength came from choosing mercy when you had the power to destroy. The Vorthak had been brought to stillness, and in that stillness a new galaxy was being born.